liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Aldermen meeting for tonight, February 13th. Roll call, please.
Alderman King.
Here.
Alderman Stowe.
Here.
Alderman Tripp.
Here.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Here.
Alderman Cassetti.
Here.
Alderman Philippone.
Here.
Alderman Dempsey.
Here.
Alderman Kaslitis.
Here.
Alderman Yeoman.
Here.
Alderman Rivers.
Here.
Alderman O'Brien.
Here.
Alderman Short.
Here.
Alderman Blackwell.
Here.
Alderman DeLibra.
Present.
14 present.
Thank you. I declare a quorum. We have 3 sets of minutes to be approved for tonight. One from the special meeting of January 9th. Have a motion? Motion by Dan King, seconded by Mr. Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Also, meeting for the regular minutes for the regular meeting on January 9th. Motion to approve by Mr. DeLibra, seconded by Mr. Short. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And the special minutes from February 8th. Motion approved by Joe Alderman, seconded by Mr. Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain. Wasn't here.
Thank you. One abstention, Rich Kaslitis. Motion carried. Public session. Would anyone from the public wish to speak? Yes, please come forward and identify yourself. Name and address, please.
Westfield Avenue, Ansonia, Connecticut.
Good. One second.
I can't hear you. Sorry, I'm soft-spoken. Renee Simpson, 180 Westfield Avenue, Ansonia, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Hi. So the Cultural Commission would like to recognize the winners of the 2017 House Decoration Contest. Mayor Cassetti, would you like to? Thank you.
Would you like to present them?
Okay. I'm sorry. So the first place goes to Deanne Queen Embrough,
Correct.
95 Howard Avenue.
Right, she came in today to pick it up. She couldn't make it tonight. So you have the second and third.
Yes, the second place goes to Jennifer L. Zielinski and Bill Caldwell, 14 Birchwood Drive.
Right here. Right here.
And then third place goes to Jay Sidor, 33 Castle Lane.
Is he here? He's not here. Okay.
The Ansonia Cultural Commission would like to thank all who participated for the 2017 House Decoration Contest.
I'll put these in my office and you can notify them and tell them they can come down and pick them up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Yes, please come forward, Mr. Regan. How are you?
Good evening. My name is Michael Egan, 103 Ben Street. First off, I'd like to thank all the aldermen, everyone that is responsible for starting this committee with Derby. Hopefully Seymour gets involved also. I think that Birmingham's in our future. I may not live to see it, but it's coming. I thank you for getting the ball rolling. I've lived on the hilltop section of Ansonia about 8 decades. I've seen it progress from a farming area to a residential area. In the 30s and 40s, there were few farms remaining. But at that time, development was in the progress. Birchwood Drive, Arbor Terrace, Lindgren Terrace were developed with good planning. Additional areas also developed to the point where Ansonia is saturated with homes and we have little elbow room. I believe one of your letters is dealing with abandoning some city property. I don't know the definition of abandoning city property. Does that mean somebody could go into Veterans Memorial Park and stake a claim there, or over at Haddad Park or Lynette Park, or any number of them? Much thought must go into abandoning city property for the development of more housing on small parcels of land. This property has been recommended as a park to to remember the farms and the farmers that were in that area of Ansonia. I don't know where that stands at this point. I know there had been work done on it. If at some point this property is given to the property owner, adjoining property owner, who I understand is in construction, perhaps that applicant would be willing to clear all this property, because what he's asking for is only a couple of thousand square feet, I guess. The corner lot on 49 Ford Street, which is on the corner of Ford, Benz, and Sokolnicki Lane. If Sokolnicki Lane is still a recognized street in the city, I'm not sure. But perhaps that owner would be able to develop the entire piece of property, and it could be turned into a park, and the city would have to maintain it, minus the 2,000 square feet that he would get, if that's what, excuse me, that's what the decision is. Please consider returning the 8-24 referral from the Planning and Zoning Commission for the possible abandonment of property located at the southeast corner of 49 Ford Street to the Planning and Zoning Commission for further review and consideration. Today we have a Planning Commission that recognizes the citizens in Ansonia. In the past, the city had what some called a lack of Planning Commission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Would anyone else from the public wish to speak? Yes, please come forward, sir. Name and address for the record.
Natal Jaimo, 93 South Cliff Street. I just want to refer to what Mr. Regan just said. I own 49 Ford Street, and I am asking for the abandonment of that small 2,000 square foot parcel. And as Mayor Cassetti can tell you, when I spoke to him, that was one of my ideas for that lower portion of property, which the city still owns, because there is a 12-inch water main on it, that possibly it could be considered for in the future for some type of a park or something. And to be honest with you, if my plans for my property is to develop it for my family, if I and when I do develop that piece of property, and I do have machines there, I would be more than willing to donate my machine work to clear that property and get it ready for the city to do whatever they need to do to it. So that's all I had to say. I think it would be a great idea what Mr. Regan just said about that lower piece. Yes.
Is the property directly across the street from his house?
I have no idea. I'm not sure exactly where he lives.
He's a little further up.
It's not perpendicular to it.
It's on the corner there.
Right. Well, Mike is the second house up from the corner on Bench
It's the
Street.
corner property, though.
Yeah, the corner property is the one that actually has the water line underneath it. Mine is right after that.
We looked at
Yeah,
it,
it's the one we looked
Josh,
at.
me,
Right.
you, and Pat Henry.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Mazzanti, please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Edward Mazzanti, 21 Castle Inn. I got a suggestion. I took notice tonight at 5 o'clock at Water Avenue and Division Street. People were back right across the road there. Should have signs put up there. Do not block intersections up there on that Water and Division Street at 5 o'clock. They went right across the road. I'm like, wow, if a police car or an ambulance went through, nobody wasn't going nowhere. And another suggestion I got over on Olson Drive is to change that to Howard Tinney Drive.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone else from the public wish to speak? Last call. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Public session is closed. Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept 3 late resolutions, please, for the agenda? Mr. Philippone, seconded by Mr. Yalman. Thank you. Mr. Chicago Rivers. Okay. Public official session, Mayor Cassetti.
Good evening, members of the Board of Aldermen, President Vaccaro, and residents of the great city of Ansonia. We have a lot going on in the city of Ansonia. We have been hard at work bringing and moving our projects along. Jerry Nocerino and Charlie Smith are finishing up their due diligence and will be moving ahead with the purchase of the ATP and Palmer buildings in the spring, which is right around the corner. You will hear more about that from Economic Development Director Sheila O'Malley on these projects later. You know, as your mayor, I'm not afraid to admit that I made a mistake. I said last month the savings would be $125,000 for the conversion, a year, for the conversion of the 1,600 streetlights. Well, I was wrong. The savings is over $300,000. Our old bill was $47,000 a month. Our new bill is $27,000 per month. That money will go towards the reserve fund and ultimately back to the taxpayers. Congratulations on the great progress we have made in agreeing on regionalization. With our Board of Education, as well as the Derby Board of Education, I am confident that this study, which will help to save taxpayer dollars while increasing the quality of education for our students. Thank you in particular for the efforts of Alderman Joe Yalman and his persistence in helping to get this adopted. Joe, your persistence has paid off. I want to again thank this Ansonia Board of Aldermen, our Superintendent Carol Malone, and the Board of Education, as well as Mayor Zekin, Charlie Sampson, and the members of the Derby Board of Aldermen, Superintendent Matt Conway, and the Derby Board of Education, for agreeing to see how we can make education stronger and better for our communities. That is our goal. As you know, I have always supported efforts to regionalize, and I have always said that Ansonia needs to be prepared and at the table, ready and willing to listen and learn about any benefits that may result for our taxpayers. Towards that effort, we have been in conversation with Derby regarding other areas in municipal government that may produce savings and improve efficiencies. We have spoken to Derby about the former Varka building and the possibility of collaborating efforts regarding our seniors. We are also exploring other municipal departments' collaboration in both the building department and assessor's office. We are also looking at intermunicipal ways to create savings. Speaking of our building department and blight office, I want to acknowledge both Rhonda Perini and Dave Blackwell Sr. of our blight officer. This month alone, they have recouped over $100,000 in blight lien payoffs. I also want to acknowledge the great job Nick Bahoon is doing in the building department. They are all doing great things, and I thank them for their efforts. Happy Valentine's Day to my lovely wife Ina, and happy Valentine's Day to all the residents of the great city of Ansonia. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Mr. Marini, any comments for tonight?
Any questions for them?
Any questions for the mayor?
Yes.
This is more of a comment, but today's Fat Tuesday, and you're a history buff, or local history buff, and this is the first time in
Yes.
19 or 20 years that they did not have the
I believe it's 30
contest.
years.
So I'm hoping that you and your office and Eddie's will return that to the city next year.
Greg is not here tonight. He had a previous commitment. Did he contact you? Because we talked to Eddie's. They're going to miss this year because they're straightening things out, but they will be back next year.
Yeah,
They assured me of
I want to
that.
make sure you guys have that on the docket for next year.
Absolutely, because I know you'll be right at the table.
That's right. Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor? Thank you. Mr.
Thank
Marini.
Mr. President, members of the board, I can say that I've eaten as many punchkis as I can to make up for the loss of the contest this year. I hope it's a small thing, but I hope it does some good. I want to give a report on 65 Main Street and our police station. I can say that the countdown is on. March 10th is the date. when we will officially receive a certificate from the Superior Court transferring ownership of 65 Main Street to the city for the purpose of the police station and the expanded parking. Along the way, however, there is an opportunity for a potential voluntary agreement. And this Friday, the city will be sitting down with Shaw Growth and their counsel, Dwight Merriam of Robinson and Cole, to see if there is a possibility to structure an alternative. If the talks are productive, we'll have a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen immediately following to discuss what occurs. But in any event, we're on a countdown for the 10th. Now, along the way, to allow a little time to negotiate, we did a refiling of the pleadings. And the refiling not only gave us some additional time, it also gave us some additional leverage. And this is a matter of public knowledge, as it is on the court docket, but we have rolled in the real estate taxes that have just become due this month into the action. That means if we're unable to come up with a voluntary agreement, the taxes, which are going to amount to about $80,000 in terms of real estate, and additionally any WPCA fees, will be taken off of the top. So they're not going to get away without paying their taxes. The 10th is going to be quickly approaching, and in the meantime, I'll give you an update if there's any good news as to a voluntary settlement between the parties. But of course, we're looking to get this property for fair value, and our appraisals indicate at 1.8 for the entire property, and that's certainly going to be the yardstick. We'll have much more to discuss about this at our March meeting.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Marini tonight?
Mr.
Yes.
Marini, the parking situation, did you touch on that? I did read that there was possible negotiations for opening up some of the parking for Main Street. Is that looking?
So worst case scenario, parking will reopen the 10th of March.
Okay.
If there's any other way to go here, I believe we'll know by Friday when we sit down with Shaw. I mean, I believe that it's anytime there's a voluntary agreement between the parties, it opens the door to a more efficient solution. But at the same time, we're not going to be bullied around. We need to have a fair solution, and simply waiting 3 weeks on parking is going to be well worth it in terms of looking at this for the big picture, years into the future, securing that parking for the city. So 3 weeks, I believe the city can wait. You know, certainly from the mayor's office, we apologize for the inconvenience. But of course, unless we go through with this, we're always going to be at the mercy of a private owner of that lot, as the lot was never owned by the city of Ansonia.
Thank you.
Mr. Stowe?
John, I think there's a misprint in this article where it says 41,900 and change unpaid property taxes, and then it says
That's
60,
installment one.
and then it says 60 sewer use fee. Is that 60,000 or is that $60?
I think the problem there is on the sewer fee. That's not accurate. I think it's closer to the smaller amount. It's a much smaller amount. But that 40,000 is the first installment of the real estate, and it looks like whoever is that the Valley Sentinel article.
So, yeah.
Looks like they made a typo.
Yeah, so you're not sure.
It's really the real estate is really the major amount here. The WPCA at this point is a small number. It's not 60,000.
So it's under 100,000.
It's going to be the total property bill for the year is going to be 80, and then WPCA by the end of the year we're going to have to see what that is. We could bring it within a range of 100 for the year.
Mr. Marini, would it be too much to ask if Shaw would open up that lot as a show of good faith to your entering into negotiations with them this week?
Well, we're going to negotiate in good faith on Friday, and we'll see what happens. Either way, we're set for the 10th.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Marini tonight? Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Sheila O'Malley, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Aldermen. Tonight, I just want to point out you have a resolution, and I apologize, it came at the last minute. It is a little bit time sensitive, although we probably could do it next month, but I wanted to get it done. It's a resolution for a grant that we're applying for, Brownfield's area-wide revitalization grant. It's called Abbar Grant. And what it does is it looks at ways of planning and remediating clusters of brownfield properties. So any large areas with multiple brownfields, this grant is suitable for. And this grant is a maximum of $200,000. It's a 90-10 match, and the 10% is the $20,000 that we received from the UI. Did I say UI? Yeah, from UI for, I think last month I had reported that we were trying to do a master development plan, and this will fit right into that. So if we were fortunate enough to get the 200,000, we couple that with the UI grant and look at an overall plan. I think the first thing we'll look at is infrastructure, utilities, roadway, et cetera, in that area of the Ansonia Copper area. So I'm hoping we'll get your consensus on an approval for that resolution tonight. Just a molto bene, the purchaser closed on that property. It is Jerry Nasarino. I'm not sure what the entity is called, or who the LLC will be named after, but he purchased it. He originally was going to do some incubator space, which we desperately need, but it doesn't look like it's going to fit on that property, so he is talking about, I'm probably speaking out of turn, but he's talking about a banquet hall, repurposing that as a banquet hall, and restaurant and apartments upstairs, right? Thanks, Mayor. So that's molto bene. That piece of property is a really good location. It's right off the highway and it's very visible. We have been talking to someone who's interested in potentially a hotel and at some various sites for that location as well. I will report back to you. Peck School, the demo contractors have asked for the shut-off notices. They will have the shut-off notices for their file, which means they're getting ready to start demo, and I anticipate perhaps next week sometime, because they've been doing the environmental cleanup for the past 2 weeks. And again, it's not going to be your traditional demo. They're going to pick, it's like a cherry picker. They're going to pick apart the building because of some of the contamination issues. So that will be exciting at long last. Maybe the mayor will sit in the machine, yeah. But they won't let them demo. Wakely Avenue, again, we talked about this, but the start date is planned for April 1st. They said if weather permits and they can get out there, they may do some pre-construction activities, so you may see them out there doing some work. Let's see, Pulaski Highway, we're just waiting for final approval on the final design of Pulaski Highway. And right, I think that's it for now. Yes, Alderman Rivers.
How far have you gotten with the grant for the tablets?
I knew this was coming. You know, I think rather than go the grant route, because that takes quite a bit of time, it'll take quite a while, I think we've identified some funding for that effort. Okay. And I think we'll be able to purchase whatever. We'll talk to the technology committee, see what they recommend, pads or tablets, whatever. It's going to be more cost effective and good for you guys, but I think we're good to go.
Okay. And
I had a tip off on that question. Okay.
I have one more question for you.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in the 5th Ward would like to have a piece of the old school.
Yep.
The bricks, are we going to be doing something like that?
The mayor wants to make those available to everyone.
We're going to put 1,000 or so brick off to the side. They got to be cleaned first.
Right, clean.
We're going to put them off to the side, and then we'll distribute them.
Are we going to like
engrave?
Yes, no. Engrave it, put a date.
I guess we could talk to a company that would do that. I mean, we could.
You know, who's going to pay for that? That's the whole thing. Who's going to pay for that? I mean, people could take them and get them engraved.
Yeah. They could have them engraved and stuff.
Yeah, they could. We could help.
Okay.
Recommend somebody for them.
Thank you.
I guess.
Yep.
The bricks will be. Yes, Alderman Young.
My question too about the bricks, I've gotten a lot of.
It was answered. Yeah, the mayor wants to make them available for free, so hopefully. That's a nice idea, though, to engrave.
Any other questions? Mr. Stowe?
Hi, Sheila. Copper and grass there, what are they doing there right now?
EPA was called out their emergency response team was called out because apparently some chemicals were dumped onto the property. And they came in to do an emergency response so that it doesn't spread, it doesn't contaminate the groundwater. They have been doing that. They allocated about $1 million for that, and now they're up to $2 million. So, you know, I always say this, when EPA comes to a site, they don't stop because they feel obligated to go, you know, a little bit further. They're still on site, and they have been allowing me to show some of the interested developers the property while they're working. Can't get inside any of the buildings, but we have gone on site, and the team is still there, and they expect to be there probably through the summer.
But they've been working there on week. This is in my ward. I'm in my ward.
Yes.
The Alderman was asking, why are they over there working on the weekends? Are they?
EPA?
There's somebody working over there.
Yeah, I think they have a crew that they're trying to get through all of what they have to do.
So it's the EPA's contractor or whatever.
EPA and DEP is out there.
It's not the owner.
The owner, no. EPA actually has.
He can't work there anymore.
Not everyone needs permission to get on the site, even the
So
owner.
I mean, the owner can't go out there because that's always the suspicion.
Right, you're right.
You know, so I have to answer that. So, Chicago there brought up the pads again, and I see, you know, it sounds like everybody would just love a pad. Where's the money coming from, Sheila?
Oh,
You said you're not going to have
the
a
tablets
grant,
and the pads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it from a grant. Where are you going to get it, Sheila? Is there some
I have some
donation or something?
I have some a willing donor, yes.
Okay, so that's not going to cost the citizens any.
No, sir.
It's going to be a convenience for some of the board members.
You could call it a grant if you like.
No,
Looks like I got a grant for it.
Clear on any video or recording devices that we're not taking taxpayers' money and borrowing.
Correct.
To the state of the state.
Yes.
I mean, we have to live in parameters, and you know, we just don't have that. You know, there's important things that need to come first.
I think ultimately the tablets or pads will save money for the taxpayers
We'll see.
and time, which is money.
I think other people, so not me and nobody in here, that think that they're going to get lost, they're going to get physically abused a little bit, and you know, because I guess that happens at other places of business when they give it to them.
I think this is a responsible board. I have faith and confidence that everybody will be responsible with their tablets. But, you know, then tablets need to be replaced because they go out of,
I don't
you know.
want to make a big deal out of it.
All right.
A big enough deal anyway.
All right, I think that those are good points to make.
Any other questions for Sheila O'Malley?
I'm sorry, I just have two questions,
Yes.
quick questions.
Alderman
Did you
O'Brien.
mention the armory at all?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Did you mention the armory, the progress?
I didn't mention the armory because I had spoken about this a couple of months ago, but the contractor said that they could not do that. They could not do the repointing and rebuilding behind the bricks until the springtime, until the warmer weather, because they're using concrete and.
But you had mentioned that during the repointing they had uncovered some damage or items that require further remediation. Is that able to take place?
Right, there's deteriorate. You have to remove the bricks, and behind the bricks is the deterioration that we spoke about. And in order to put the bricks back in, you need to seal the bricks up with mortar, and
Okay.
you can't do that right now. So.
Okay, thank you.
And if you didn't put the bricks back in, you'd leave the building exposed.
I didn't realize that the mortar was the application for the patching on the.
That's why
interior.
too. Yeah, I thought
Understood.
because it's a relatively warm winter, and they probably could have, you know, if it was something else, they might have been able to work through it.
And then you also mentioned the Pringle-Pulaski Highway project. You said it's in the approval stage, design phase.
We're at 100% for design in terms of, what the engineers have submitted. There's a regional review and there's a state review.
Okay.
And then there's an outside consultant that has to get a review. So it's essentially 3 sets of reviews. But we hope to get through that, shortly. So
But the
maybe.
ball's rolling.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I would like to answer more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Hale.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. President, good evening, members of the board. 3 points. One, we had an incident on High Acres Road today. I spoke to the Alderman up in the Southern Board. 2 people were able to enter a house. There was an altercation. There may have been a theft, and then they were able to escape. So we had a quick response, a K-9 on scenes. It's still under investigation how they got in and what exactly was taken and really the circumstances behind it. There's not much more I can say at this point, but we were up there pretty quickly. You have a communication in front of you from me tonight. We're so thankful that the legislature thought it best to just ship raffle and bingo processes down to municipalities and put the police chiefs in charge of that. We're eternally thankful for that. So you have a list of fees in front of you tonight. The state, these are the maximum fees. You can't go any higher than these. These were the one thing the state did say was that this is the maximum that you can charge. All the proceeds come back to the city, which is good, I guess. So it's a process that really this is the final step. We'll start getting this worked out. We've had some requests from several churches and the bingo committees that are anxious to get going, so they're able to do that. They've been doing that for years and years. They'll actually come in and show us how this is done because they quit that and stuff like that. So once that's approved tonight, then we'll be able to start working on that. There's a lot more involved in that than I had originally, the applications used to come through us, but what the state required in terms of paperwork is just, it was kind of crazy. But, again, we have all the forms and everything. And then there's one more thing that I'd like to hopefully get in front of you in the next month or so. We'd like to just to coincide with May. The mayor and I had spoken about this. One of our officers had come up with an idea to rename Railroad Avenue. So Chief Daniel Hayes was the first police chief in Ansonia's history. And he was shot on Christmas Eve, 1880, on what is now Railroad Avenue. And he died 3 days later. And his killer was arrested, tried, and then hung in New Haven Superior Court. And interestingly enough, there's still a charge that a judge makes to a jury that is deadlocked, to keep them from getting deadlocked. So the killer was a guy named Chip Smith, James Chip Smith. And judges today still use the Chip Smith rule when advising and charging the jury. Chief Hayes was the second police officer killed in line of duty in Connecticut's history. So it's quite a history. The department, there actually was no department until 1883, so 3 years went by before that position was filled again. He was the chief and the entire department. So, but it was right in that area. So what and Officer Chris Kelly really is leading the charge on this is to rename Railroad Avenue as some form of Chief Daniel Hayes Drive or something like that. The benefit, one of the benefits, I don't believe there are any addresses on Railroad Drive. No. There shouldn't be anything over this. There's nothing really for anybody to change, but I think it would be a great testament to Chief Hayes. And we'd like to do this, have a dedication in the second or third week in May during Police Memorial Week. It would be very fitting. Chief Hayes' name is on the memorial down in Washington, D.C. I have an etching of it in my office. So I think it would be a terrific thing to keep our history going. So it's an interesting story, it really is. I have articles from back then in my office. Anybody's interested in that, from the New Haven Register, I think the Sentinel or whatever it was during the day. So we're hoping to get that to you probably through the mayor's office in March, just so we can prepare for April the latest, but at least March to get this going. That's it.
Any questions for Chief Hale tonight? Mr. King.
In order to honor Chief Hayes, I would certainly get behind renaming the street. police station, there's a great opportunity to maybe improve them also in that. And just the history, things that you have, I'd like to see a space for it.
Yeah, that's
In the police department. You know, Officer Kelly went through the whole, research and looking at it, you're familiar with it. We were able to honoring also somewhere within the police department, where the current building, all of our former officers and people in service. There's really nothing, there's not an area to do that. Nothing within public view.
There's a section, and I've never touched it in my office, and Chief McGrath had it there. There's a picture, a portrait of Chief Hayes with a plaque. Detective Sergeant Sexton from years and years ago that researched that, put that together. It's a very nice plaque, and it's in my, and I've never touched it outside of painting the office. It's been there, so it's a beautiful.
It'd be great to offer that to the public, though.
Oh, I agree. Just get it in a public area where everyone
Give
can
it
see
a nice
it.
lobby or somewhere, but
I agree.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah.
Madam Chair, different guy.
Chief Hale, just wanted to thank you for your work on Beverly Drive. It was the night of our last Alderman meeting where you and your team apprehended those murder suspects from Texas. So I'm sure I can speak on behalf of Josh and all of our 6th Ward residents and city residents that you guys did a great job. And I just want to thank you for that.
We'll share the thanks with Shelton. You know, our guys acted pretty quick. It was kind of an odd circumstance the way it all came together, but I do appreciate it. I'll pass it
Absolutely.
along.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. DeLisio, Public Works Department.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make it brief. Wasn't much going on this time of year except for all these ice storms and snowstorms we've been having. We picked up 704 Christmas trees this past month. The snowstorms we had one the 4th, the 5th, the 8th, and the 30th. Icy roads. We had 7th, the 12th, the 14th, 15th, and 17th. We've been out the whole month. We've been busy for small ice storms, the little snowstorms, but we kept us pretty busy. Guys are out filling potholes, cleaning the storm drains. I took care of that storm drain today for you.
Thanks.
Picking up papers. I went one sewer backup for the month. Picking up trash 2 days a week, and just a normal routine this time of year. Cutting trees. I'm taking care of the landfill. We had a lot of tree growth in the back of the landfill. DEP wants to cut, so I got the guys cutting down some trees in the back of the landfill. And just our normal day-to-day operations. Getting back on doing the storm drains, which was good. We got some warm weather coming, so storm drains are being cleaned up, and trucks are washed after every storm. Guys have been busy. They haven't been out like they normally are. You don't see them out there because there's no trees growing or no growth. But once the summer comes, we'll be out there. We'll be real busy. That's about it.
Any questions for Mr. DeLisio tonight? Mr. Stowe?
I just want to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Well, I sent them there. Hopefully they did the right job, you know. They did about 30 catch basins today. That was the first one I sent them on, so
Okay.
hopefully they got the right one.
Yeah, that's the right one.
All right. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so above the police station, I went down through there again today. What's going on? I'm sure that must, I can't believe we haven't had a bad accident.
We've been on that
Because that's a state problem.
state
And
state
it's
road.
Going on for how long?
This is going on 3rd year. Whenever it rains heavy, comes out of the ground. It's a storm drain. Myself and Kevin went out there 2.5 years ago. Popped the storm drain cover. It's a concrete drain, with a hole in it. We called Orange multiple times. I was talking to Charlie today, who works for the site. I'm going to see if I can call other department because they're not taking care of it. They cut up the road somewhere else in the road. There's nothing to do with the problem.
I can't believe
They
you
can't
haven't had
find
that accident.
I can't believe they can't find it.
Mr. Mayor, I mean, is
I
there some way
know.
to...
You got to camera it, and you got to really go through it.
It's actually
and find out
easy.
what the
I
problem
mean, we
is.
popped the storm drain cover. We went down and we seen the break in the pipe. The water's
Yeah, but they
coming
got to put a
down,
camera in there, Mike.
and if the water's going under, the pipe is concrete's broken. The water's going under the drain, coming out about 100 yards down, and it's coming out of the ground. So it's an easy fix, actually. All you got to do is some wire and concrete, and they can repair it, but they're not in the right position. We called them multiple times, they said, no, it's not there, it's not.
I mean, you know, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry for, well, not really sorry for bringing it up, but
No, you're
I'm not
not
trying
bring it up.
to cause a problem with it, you know? I could, this warm weather we're having the next 2 weeks, there's no excuse that the state can't go, because we're gonna have a major calamity. That's what
It's
I'm
gonna collapse.
concerned.
The ground is gonna be wet.
And
You know, thank God it's
forbid
9 inches
somebody
thick
gets
there.
hurt there. Somebody gets hurt.
Right.
They dumped about 4 tons of salt the other night on it.
I just, twice I've gone through there, it's unbelievable.
Now, we're gonna make some calls tomorrow, hopefully we go to another department, they can help us. We called Beacon Falls, we get along good with that division.
Sure.
But, and we talked to them about it, and he said he would refer to that same gentleman, his name's Anthony out there, and he's not doing his job, so I'm gonna call somebody higher up tomorrow, because it's a mess.
The weather's, to really push on somebody, the weather is perfect, because it's supposed to be nice even into next week. So they'd be normally geared to plow.
Right.
So I mean, and the frost is basically almost come out of the ground. I just, we gotta get
they can
something
just,
done
you
there.
can kind of walk down the
Right
ladder
in
and
front of our
pipe.
police state, almost, it's within.
It's not a hard fix.
It just has bad potential there. We don't take care of it.
Yeah, you're not the only one bringing that up, a lot of people have been bringing it up, and I'll make a call tomorrow, and try to get the right person, hopefully they can get things moving there.
Thanks, Mike.
No, I know,
I worry about it.
No, I know it. Okay.
Is it, you're saying it's a broken pipe, is that what you're saying?
The storm drain's all concrete. The bottom of the pipe is broken. So as the water comes down, the water flows in the bottom of the pipe is going down underneath the pipe. And it's coming out about 100 yards out of the ground. Actually, they could fix this quick. I mean, I almost feel like going down and repairing it myself.
You know where it is.
I know where it is.
Okay.
I explained to them where it is. They said there's no storm drain there. It says storm drain right on the cover. Popped it off. I looked down in the hole, and there it was. I mean, it's very simple to find. I don't know why they won't.
Is it concrete or is it the corrugated metal?
No, it's concrete.
Yeah.
It's concrete.
Because I know from coming off of Spring Street, I did the gas main and water main there
There's
years
probably
ago.
metal there.
And there was all corrugated metal, the
Yeah.
asphalt coated,
Yeah.
coming up that road.
Yeah, this
So
is
I don't know.
concrete, how they fit together.
Yeah.
Right at the hub, it's broken
Yeah.
right at the hub. And it's just going down underneath. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes and I explained to them, and they're going to the wrong position. I have to meet somebody out there.
Yeah.
But they're, in Orange, that's their department. They don't
Yeah.
come out, they don't want to come out, so I'll have to call somebody else higher up in the
Maybe
state.
call Pond Lily and find out down there.
Yeah. Okay,
Thanks, Mike.
okay.
Committee reports. I'll give the Finance Committee report. I'd like to ask for a motion to pay all bills if found to be accurate and correct. Rich and Mr. Yalman seconded. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I also want to propose something tonight. For the first time, I'd like to, after having discussions with Rich Bashura regarding our budget, we're going to start our budget meetings next month, hopefully, or for sure. And I propose that the Alderman Finance Committee join forces with the Boat Commission, and we have joint meetings with all the department heads. So we'll save time, and we could hopefully get a budget amenable to everyone sooner rather than later. So I'd like to make that motion. Mr. Cassetti.
Yeah, I make that motion.
Seconded by Mr. Rivers. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. King?
One question. I agree that, everyone before finalizing the budget should get together and work, but traditionally, vote does need to set a standard, you should say a starting point for us for each of the departments. Then it could be adjusted. If you have both groups and would both have to approve the budget before it's finalized in the beginning of the process, then we might have too many balls in the air.
Oh, there won't be too many cooks in the kitchen, I guarantee it. So, Mr. Tripp?
I would like to concur with Mr. King's statements. I agree totally with what Dan King is saying. Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
In the beginning, in the introduction, but certainly last year and the year before, there was no working together, which kind of went the opposite direction, which would have been greatly appreciated last year if we had, you know, the finance committee of the Board of Aldermen, you know, come into vote to review what we did, have questions, you know, have them answered so that they were up and running. During the whole process, I agree with finance committee members should be there at the vote discussion meetings. Then once it's passed, it'll be, you know, just one continuous process. But, you know, as far as voting or, you know, having input, they should be there for, you know, to observe. Then once it's done, you know, hand it. That way it's all, you know, one fluid process. Last year, I think it was delayed more going to the Board of Aldermen because it was like reviewing everything all over and doing the whole process over again. It was done twice. It was like we worked on 2 budgets last year.
Got it.
This year, we're going to work on.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Yalman.
Because I understood it to be a different, I thought the meetings were just going to be joint with the department heads to obtain the information together. That's not going to stop the process from both doing a separate budget and then all in finance doing a different budget. Is that
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you. Mr. Stowe?
I just want to make something clear, because I was the chairman last year.
And I was the chairman 3 years previous.
And I didn't take offense at all. This is just business. I asked Dan for anything he wanted to weigh in when we very first started. It was before Joe wasn't on the board yet. I don't know if there was anybody here on that. But we asked, is there anything you want to, you know, and he did not feel he had the time, and they were working on it, and that's about what happened. So that's why rather than, you know, I'm not trying to blame it, it just didn't happen. We tried, and it didn't happen. So, you know, I mean, now I believe that the mayor's going to have a budget. Yeah, a proposed budget, and it's going to go with vote. And then, because that's what happens every year, right? And then the finance committee's going to work on it, right? Well,
That's correct.
That's it.
Yes, Mr. Schubert.
To recap, it's going to be the exact same process, except you're going to share the meetings with the department heads, correct?
Yes, we are. Yes. Any further discussion? Motion on the floor and with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Arms Committee report. Mr. Blackwell?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Arms had a busy month in January, one of our busiest months ever. Arms typically, on a yearly average, averages about 200 calls for service a year. Last month we did 320. Griffin Hospital was the largest receiving hospital at 157. Second was Yale New Haven Hospital at 20, Bridgeport at 15. There were also St. Vincent's and Bridgeport at 15. Billing revenue for the month was $64,457.18. And I have a copy if anybody wants to read in more detail.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Blackwell? Thank you. Mr. Stowe, WPCA report.
Last week was canceled due to the weather. Meeting before that, I wasn't able to attend because of weather. There's really nothing that important. I don't think that needs to be going on.
Thank you. Fire Commission, Mr. Schubert.
Fire Marshal report for the month of January. There were fire department responded to 70 calls during the month. The biggest items were 13 MVA assists, 11 system faults, and 14 water leaks. There were 70 total calls, 3 fire marshal investigations, and 8 inspections.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Schubert? Thank you. Mr. Yaman, Ordinance Committee, anything to report?
We haven't had a meeting, so probably have a meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Housing Authority, Mr. Cassetti.
Yes, people want to know. The Housing Authority took place, this meeting took place on the 24th of January here at City Hall. Of the reports, financial payments that were received in the amount of $43,218 to the fund there, Housing Authority. There were no complaints or any comments from the public. They discussed that they're still pursuing the real estate to fulfill their obligation toward the purchase of, they call it now scattered site housing instead of large blocks as we had across the river. We're going for individual pieces, 2, 3 family homes. The law firm of Bertram and Moses was passed to fulfill the authority's general law and real estate closings. After executive session, it was moved to continue the purchase of a home at 11 May Street that has been considered. And then on February 5th, they had a meeting where there were 2 resolutions that were passed. Motion by Mr. Scarpa, second by Mr. Lopez, for the Housing Authority resolution to approve the 2018 amended annual Public Housing Authority's plan for the Housing Authority for the City of Ansonia. That there is submitted through HUD. That was carried, and the second one was for a resolution to authorize an increase in rents for the elderly and disabled public housing units at Monsignor Hayes and or Hines, sorry, and at John J. Stevens Apartments. They had it's a minimal type of raise in the basics, probably about $40 a month. In regard to that, there was also a caveat that they had that there's going to be a no smoking policy that's going to be implemented. And although it might be hard to implement a no smoking policy, it was suggested that a smoking cessation policy would be enforced also, that they would make it available with patches or with something that would help people get off of cigarettes and or anything that they smoke. That's about it.
Thank you. Any other committees to report? Mr. Philippone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 committees to report from. First being salaries. There's 2 resolutions.
Can you speak up in the microphone?
Sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you. So 2 committees to report from, the Technology Committee and the Salaries Committee. From the Salaries Committee, there's 2 resolutions on the table here. And then as far as technology, we had our first meeting Monday discussing the current state of the technology in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other committees? Okay. Municipal reports, boat recommendations.
I
Mr.
recommend
Cassetti.
we accept them, and if you want, you could read them, but I believe that they're...
So we're approving, that's a motion to approve their motions 1 through 4 plus delay communication number 1?
Right.
Is there a second on that motion? Mr. Philippone.
Point of order?
Yes.
Are we skipping ahead to late communication number 1 before going through all the communications?
There's a late communication from both.
Oh, we're still on municipal reports, Phil.
All right, so we're not doing any communications yet?
I didn't get there yet. No.
All right, just want to
Okay.
be sure, thank you.
Yeah. So, yes. We're just right here on the agenda.
But it's not 1 through 4, 3 is tabled, and 5 is tabled.
We don't have to take any action on those. We're just taking action on the motions that were approved by vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tax collector report. Mr. Castellitis. I'm sorry, I forgot. The land use report. Mr. Yalman.
Total revenue for January 2018 was $107,672. Move to accept the report.
There was second by Mr. O'Brien. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now the tax collector report. Mr. Castellitis.
A motion to accept the tax collector's report and request for refunds in the amount of $14,184.59 is found to be correct.
Seconded by Mr. Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. No accidents and claims. Communications. Phil, do you want to make a comment about the communications?
No, I'm waiting for late communication number 1. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Yeah, that late communication was changed to a late resolution, Mr. Tripp. Sorry for the confusion.
So that'll be in resolutions now?
Yes. Late resolution number 1. Okay, communication number 1, from Chief of Police Kevin Hale. Is there a motion, Mr. Stewart?
Motion to accept late communication from the Ansonia Police Department.
Or second by Mr. Blackwell. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Yalman?
I would just add, do we need to, I think we need to adopt that. We need to adopt it, approve the fees that are listed in the letter and adopt them as the maximum fees that can be.
The fee we're going to charge, yes.
To be
Mr.
clear, this applies to recreational programs that have bake sales, like sometimes programs will group a bake sale and a 50-50 raffle.
Right.
So would that permit apply to the recreation programs as well?
Yes, technically everybody's supposed to apply to these. There are certain ones, I don't have it in front of me, obviously, PTOs, PTAs, another group can run. They can run a bingo, there's no earnings or anything like that. They can run it as a recreational thing. So there are, of course, always exceptions carved out in this. But this is the general raffle tickets, bingos, and the bazaars that we make.
And just to follow up, the raffles that are going on at some of the sporting events, 50-50s that are being sold at baseball games and football games, soccer games, and whatnot. Does Little League, Pop Warner, does everybody need to come to the department to get a license now in order to do those fundraising events?
They were supposed to be doing that all along now. Those may be happening without our knowledge, and without approval in the past. Technically, yes. I can't tell you otherwise.
Okay.
But yeah, that should have been the process all along.
Mr. Stewart.
Another quick question. So procedurally, for like the schools that do bingo weekly, every week throughout the year, do they have to do this? They do it once and then just agree to?
Yeah.
It says per week, but
with the bingos, there's a one-time application. There's 3 different types of bingo. Right? And I try to lay them out as succinctly as I could. So you apply once, one application, and tell us what you're doing for the year. So if you're going to be in Class A, B, or C, and then you would have the fee accordingly. So it's not an application every time.
so the school would just pay, like if it does weekly, does $300.
Well, that would be the PTO or the PTO. Quite honestly, I'm not sure they are charged. Again, there are exceptions. I think there's an exception for, I don't know, I'm not getting the phrase correctly, but like a recreational use, like a fun bingo type thing for the PTO. So I think they're limited or no fee for that. It's a separate application for that.
I was thinking of the for-profit ones. A lot of the schools do weekly bingo.
Yeah, they would fall under that.
Class A.
Yes, Mr. Cassetti.
Yes, just to be sure, the Public Act allows a maximum amount that you can charge, right?
Right.
But you do have latitude there. You can give or take whatever you need to.
No, I need this board to tell me what the fee's going to be before I can tell people how much we're going to charge them. So this is the maximum recommended fee. I suppose you can make it whatever you want, but this is, I just took their chart.
Well, this is your recommendation, Chief.
Recommendation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. King?
It also states in here, now, this is part of that is the state statute, they were to collect 5% of the net.
Yes, so
That's,
bingo
I don't
wasn't,
think we really need a cut, do we? There's some mistake. If it's a profit for now, that, this actually says for anyone, it doesn't say if it's a for non-profit. So if the nature center or the library does something, we're going to collect a portion of the proceeds for the net. We determine,
We're following state law.
or we don't have to, or, no, I'm just,
I know.
I mean, they put it in the statute, I understand for a reason. I mean, if it was a big fundraiser, big moneymaker, where it may cost us in way of city services, like there may be police there directing traffic, there might be someone there, that makes sense.
I just think it's important that you have to set the rule. There can't be, well, we know, we're going to give them a break. There can't, the rule is the rule. The fee schedule is the fee schedule. If you're not going to charge the 5%, then you need to make that part of the motion. So what I presented is what the state has presented as a maximum. And the 5% of the net profit for the bingo is included in that.
Mr. Cassetti, yes.
I feel that this needs more discussion. That's just the way I feel about it. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we make some discussion on this.
So you want to table it?
Let's table it for now.
Phil, second?
Before we table it, Mr. President, before we table it, does Corporation Counsel have any thing he'd like to throw in the mix? No, I didn't say that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we want to discuss that, or?
My only point would be to talk about the fees and talk about give us an opportunity to do this, maybe refer this to ordinance. Ordinance need to discuss this.
I go with that.
Okay, if I may.
Yes.
We've had several requests from committees and churches to run the bingos, and we're going to start having raffle requests to run raffles. So I'm going to need, if you're going to table this, we're going to need some guidance on what we're going to charge. Are we going to charge? We're going to go through our process of background and application and everything. But are you going to withhold us charging fee? I just need to know, I need direction going forward until this is resolved.
Chief, this is effective January 1st, 2018.
Correct.
So we need to act on this, Mr. Marini?
I should also say, this is an act of the state to shift this responsibility to the police department. And so my recommendation will be to defer to the police department as to how to handle this procedure, given that the state is putting them in the driver's seat.
All right, then.
Thank you.
I withdraw my...
Withdraw your motion? Mr. Tripp? Okay. So we're going to vote on this? All in favor, passing this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Communication number 2 from the Friends of the Ansonia Nature Center and the Nature Center Recreation Center staff respectfully request that Mr. Rich DiCarlo be authorized to assist in planning of Nature Center events. The letter is signed by Rich Wade, Chairman of the Friends of the Ansonia Nature Center Events Committee, and also from Allison Ruhlden, Director of the Ansonia Nature and Recreation Center. Gentlemen, your pleasure.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I would like to postpone this until the director can explain how they're going to pay for this.
Is that
Where the funding's going to come from.
Is that a motion, Mr. Stowe?
I'm making a motion.
And seconded by Mr. Tripp. Any discussion?
I would just say that I think the Nature Center has some programmatic money, but I don't know how much, and I just would add that.
Well, we need a
That's in their budget.
presentation to understand what we could do or not do. So we made a motion.
Yeah, it just doesn't state if it's a paid position, and if it is, how much. It just doesn't state it.
The director.
So we need some further information.
You would request the director to come.
Yes, we will. We'll contact Allison. Thank you. All in favor to table the motion? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Motion is tabled. Communication number 3. It's regarding the 8-24 referral request for the possible land acquisition on 420 North Main Street. Mr. Yaman?
Motion to, I think the motion we accept the communication and refer it to Corporation Counsel for discussion.
Second by Mr. Castellitis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Communication number 4, also from Planning and Zoning Committee, Mr. Castellitis.
Motion to accept and refer to Corporation Counsel.
Second by Mr. Yaman. This is the property located at the corner of 49 Ford Street, so we're going to refer this to Corporation Counsel. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Communication number 5, license agreement from Super Softy Service Food and Ice Cream Truck. Mr. Cassetti.
Make a motion to accept.
Mr. Castellitis seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Mr. Yaman. Sorry?
Do we need to give authorization to execute the agreement with the pastor?
I don't believe so, Mr. Marini. We've done this before.
Well, if it's an agreement the mayor has to sign, then it's authorization to execute an agreement.
Okay, so you authorize the mayor to...
Well, I was going to, do you want to amend the motion just to authorize the mayor to...
Yeah, I'll amend it to authorize the mayor.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. No resignations tonight. Any appointments? Yes. First appointment to the Board of Enforcement and Taxation for Mr. Brandon M. Teague of 3024 Castle Lane. Do I have a motion to approve, to appoint?
So
Rich Castellitis makes a motion, and seconded by Mr. Yaman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. McKeague. How are you? There he is. Good luck. For the Economic Development Commission, 5-year term, Mr. Joseph Yaman is on the agenda for appointment tonight. Does anybody know Mr. Yaman? Motion by Mr. Castellitis, second by Mr. Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Thank you, Mr. Yaman. Mr. Horace Burley of 94 Brook Street for Mr. Tripp, and seconded by Mr. Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. For the School Building Commission, a 2-year term, Tracy DeLibro of 31 Martin Terrace, Ansonia. Mr. Rivers? Yes. Thank you, and seconded by Mr. Philippone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Thank you, Mr. DeLibro. One abstention. Welcome, Mr. DeLibro. Also on the School Building Commission for a 2-year term is Gary Cassetti of 102 Root Avenue, Ansonia, Connecticut. Mr. DeLibro, motion to, second by Mr. Philippone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Also for the School Building Commission, Mr. David Papson of 16 Chester Street. Mr. Rivers, motion, and seconded by Mr. Philippone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. For the WPCA, Mr. Charles Stowe of 23 Granite Terrace. Mr. Castellitis and Mr. Tripp, seconded. All in favor? Any opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention, Mr. Stowe. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Congratulations again. Thanks for your hard work on that, Charlie. For how many years? At least 4 years, Charlie.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I hope you've been proud of me.
Very proud, Charlie, very proud.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
We had some resolutions tonight, Mr. Philippone.
Yes, sir.
Late resolutions, I'm sorry.
Yes. First is regarding the salaries. Resolution is that these salary wage be adopted effective January 1st. Specified salaries and wages. Department of the Mayor, Title Mayor's Assistant. Current salary is $27,405. The new salary effective January 1st would be $30,405, which is an increase of $3,000. And then again for the Department of the Mayor, Economic Development Director, current salary is $51,197. New salary would be $56 even, for an increase of $48.03. Again, for the Department of the Mayor, the grants writer, current salary $35,837. New salary would be 41 even, increase of 5163. And then again for the Department of the Mayor, title IT manager, which current salary is 38,150. New salary effective January 1st would be 30,000 even, which is a decrease of 8,150. That's the first resolution.
That was a motion, Mr. Philpone?
Yes, sir.
Second by Mr. Rivers. Mr. Stowe, discussion?
I have a recommendation that I know probably won't be followed. Is there, when is the budget have to be finished? What date is it June?
I believe we finished last year in June.
Is that the legal time, John? Do you know what the
very last date? I think June 1st is probably the
I would recommend to postpone these raises until we finalize the budget. And then if found that we're able to deliver a budget that has a zero in tax increase, then we can legitimately give good cause for these raises, which these people, you know, a lot of them aren't really getting paid what they probably should be. But, you know, welcome to Connecticut. You want to stay here, that's what you get. I got a recommendation. If anyone wants to go with it, fine. If not, move forward.
Well, there's a motion on the floor in a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Rich? Opposed? Phil?
And Charlie.
Three opposed. Charlie, Phil, and Rich Keslitis. Thank you. Motion carried. Late resolution number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 3.
So, late resolution number 3 is resolution to secretaries of board and commissions. Be it resolved that the legislative body of the City of Ansonia met on February 13, 2018, and adopted a resolution to vote to which, 1, attending at a meeting of an aldermanic salary subcommittee on February 12, 2018, a motion was made by Alderman Vaccaro and seconded by Alderman Rivers to compensate only the following secretaries for boards and/or commissions, and institute the proposed regulations for paid secretaries. This will take effect on March 1st, 2018. And so I make a motion to adopt.
Second by Mr. Kasselaitis. Any discussion? Mr. Yalman?
I'd like to consider an amendment to this to make the effective date at least April 1st to allow any boards or commissions that are being affected by this with not only paid secretary in order to adapt and appoint a reporting secretary from their board.
I'll accept the amendment.
What was that?
I'll accept the to change the date to April.
To April 1st?
April 1st.
You amended the second the motion? Okay. I'd like to highlight what the savings are. Could be with the secretaries, we could be saving between $20,000 and $24,000 in 1 year. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. Also, anyone can take minutes at any commission if the chairman of that commission designates a person to do the minutes for that meeting. And okay, so we have a motion on the yes.
I just have so as this stands, the only secretaries that would be compensated are for these particular commissions. Any other commission, like recreation, for example, would not be compensated.
That's correct. That's correct.
And then the Recreation Commission would be responsible for recording their own meeting minutes, distributing their own agenda and program reports, things like that, or is this just restricted to attending a meeting and taking minutes?
No, it would.
All of the above?
Yes, that's right. Once again, the only thing you have to put in minutes are the action items, that there's a quorum, who's in attendance, and the date of your next meeting, I believe. That's according to Robert's rules. Yes, Mr. Short.
But what he's saying is that that person also has to produce an agenda, distribute that, and is that correct?
Yeah, well.
Yes, I would say that's correct, yes. Time out. I ran finance for 3 years. I was the chairman of the finance committee. I took all my own minutes, I distributed the agendas, and I did the minutes as well, myself.
Okay, so it's I'm just using recreation because it's not listed here. So the recreation commission chairman would therefore be responsible for assuring that somebody himself or somebody on that commission prepares the agenda, takes meeting minutes, and distributes the meeting minutes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just to be clear.
All right. This, I did watch minutes get taken and by a person in the meeting, and let me tell you, if I was a taxpayer and I wanted to know what the hell was going on, I'd have been upset. I believe the whole group, whatever you got, whatever that committee's got, the whole committee votes whether they want to have the minutes taken by a salaried minute taker or somebody else on the committee. You follow me? You know, understand what I'm saying? So the whole committee would vote whatever the majority is, and if the majority says we don't need a secretary, then that's fine. I don't think it's fair to have one person have that kind of control over it, because it just brings hard feelings. I always find, just like in here, we just passed a salary that I didn't vote for. I have no hard feelings. The majority voted for it. It was done in a way that was fair. If one person was making up their mind whether the salaries were, it wouldn't need us, first of all, but it wouldn't seem very fair now, would it, fellas?
Any other discussion? Mr. Blackwell?
Yeah, I just have a question. I wasn't on this committee. I was just wondering, like, the difference, like I see a fire commission 250 and then a police commission 206. How did you guys derive at those? Why is there such a drastic change, like, in difference? Like, to me, they should be, like, the same. I don't know.
These were the salaries already established. Yes.
There. Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to share some information with the board. I think this puts it into a little bit of perspective, and I don't mean to make it any more complicated. But I'm talking with someone that's does secretarial work for the town of Shelton just recently. They pay a flat rate of $18 per hour for every board and commission in the city. So it's quite a stark comparison when you see any board and commission here in the city getting paid 100 or more. And in the city of Shelton, it doesn't matter whether it's the chief legislative board, it doesn't matter if it's a planning and zoning board, they're getting $18 for an hour. So there's certainly perhaps an opportunity for efficiency here to simply streamline, give attention to the boards that we do, in terms of what Alderman Stowe is talking about. I think we hear that loud and clear. There's some meetings that we want to go above that minimum standard in showing our residents, allowing them to read what is happening. This board is a good example for that. I think we have an excellent secretary that captures near verbatim what's going on. And likewise for planning and zoning and land use board, as an attorney, I encourage a secretary to be present that is being adequately compensated and doing a more than adequate job, because those what happens at those meetings could very well be the subject of litigation. However, in turn, if there's going to be more of a premium paid for those meetings, there needs to be an ability to offset everything else going on. I believe that $18 a meeting is achieved because in most cases it's a member of the board that's being incentivized to take the many minutes. And certainly here we have a capability on most boards for an individual to simply, who serves on the board, to take up that task themselves to record the minutes. There is an alternative here. In talking with finance and also talking with the mayor's office, many of our boards and commissions are linked to departments. For example, the rec commission is linked to the rec department. Many of our boards deal with finance. You have an underlying finance department. It is entirely possible for the meetings to be simply recorded and then taken back to allow a staff member who is already a full-time staff member of the city at no extra expense as part of their duties transcribe the meeting minutes. So for example, I'd recommend for the rec board, if the rec board really wants to go above and beyond just putting down the action items, the motions, and what was voted for, I'd recommend using either a city tape recorder to record the meeting, or a cell phone, or maybe even having them, if available, in the Board of Aldermen chambers and having them recorded by video. And then we can have a recreation staff member like Jeff Capola take time during the day to put together the minutes. That way, you know, we're not inconveniencing a staff member who doesn't otherwise have to stay for the meeting, but the meeting minutes still get taken in a more detailed basis. So I think there's a lot of workarounds. I think overall the Salary Commission, this is correct, President Picaro, that the savings will be in excess of $25,000 a year to go with this proposal.
That's correct. I was giving it a lowball estimate of like 20-something thousand dollars to $25,000. And then some meetings meet more than once a month, some commissions. Like School Building Commission was meeting twice a month for at least the past 2 months. Yes, Mr. DeLibero.
Yes, I have one comment on the secretarial issue. When I was at Sikorsky, the one thing that we noticed, wasted money on meetings. And if we're going to have meetings and people can't attend and don't show up, are we paying these secretaries and are we paying these wages to the secretaries for these different boards? If there's not a quorum, if there's not a meeting, are they getting paid their full stipend?
No. Second page.
Is that the answer, yes or no?
We got several answers on the floor. One answer would be the one that's the cost savings to the city.
I think the answer, the answer I'm hearing is yes. So I'm hearing a no answer as well. So it's all over the place, I guess.
The question again is, if there's a meeting and there's not a quorum, is the secretary going to get paid whatever's on this list for no meeting?
I would hope not.
Well, there's page 2. Second page.
Make it a uniform.
Item 1, second paragraph.
So then even if that doesn't happen, they're going to get paid?
Well, 25%.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
That's if they do diligence. Could I speak?
That's the plan if we pass this resolution tonight.
That's if they do
That's
diligence.
going forward. Going forward. He's talking about in the past, at the present time. Right.
Well, we're going to set a precedent by this. What are we going to do in the future? Are we going to pay secretaries if we don't have meetings? And I don't mean to single out secretaries.
Well,
It's not this.
there are guidelines, though.
Yeah, the guidelines are on the resolution.
Okay.
Last page. Any further discussion? Mr. King.
One thing to add, I know all the secretaries aren't created equally, being on pretty much every board at some one point or another. Some, like the Board of Aldermen, it's verbatim minutes. Everything is recorded, everything is transcribed for public viewing. So generally there is one meeting a month, generally, unless we have a special meeting or something. Other boards, we have the prices listed for what the secretaries should get based, again, on monthly meetings. We have exceptions, because it's a little misleading to look at, say, like, for a meeting, the Board of Aldermen secretary gets X amount of dollars. There's a lot of work involved after that for this board. Both, it has a figure, what was it, 487? It looks like she's getting 480 something per meeting once a month. It's not. On that board, you have to keep track of line items, transfer of funds, make sure every single number is correct when it's submitted to the clerk's office. During budget discussion, budget season, there are no 12 meetings for both. There will be an additional between February and April. That secretary covers possibly another 20 meetings on top of the monthly scheduled meetings. So I was just wondering, how it's going to be paid, because before it was paid more like a salary, and everything was included. Whenever a meeting was called, that would be it. The secretary is expected to cover it. There was no extra money. There was no, another board, school building committee, for instance, I'm on that. There's no set schedule. It's called whenever a meeting is needed.
Well, there's a set schedule, but we have extra meetings when we were
Right.
finishing up the project, but there's a set
And then extra meetings,
schedule.
Some of those boards, even though it's a lesser amount, they get paid for each extra meeting.
Right.
Some of the secretaries do not. So the numbers that they're being paid represents the total year and all the work required. So I was just gonna want that to intrude on them if, say, they don't meet quorum, or they miss one meeting to have money taken back, when they're always required to do extra besides what they do at the actual meeting. They're not all equal, and that's why there's a big discrepancy between these 100 for one person to $400 figure for someone else. I just want to make sure, you know,
Okay.
that, because we absolutely need to have the secretaries. It's, you know, everything needs to be recorded.
Right.
In some cases by law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Dempsey?
Those salaries that you're referring to, those are salaried, I mean, those are set as salary items, correct?
Well, I know with both, that's the way it was.
I think the Board of
There was a
Aldermen
total
also
number, and it was at the organizational meeting, like most boards have an organizational meeting, they set a salary, and they named the recording secretary. That figure, I know in the case of road secretary, does not increase if there's more meetings. That is it. If they attend 12 meetings for the year, or they do 35 meetings, it's the same amount.
So should that be differentiated, the salary?
No, but I don't think it
position
should be
versus-
deducted or penalized if they miss.
I
a
agree with
meeting
you, that's what I'm
or
asking.
if something doesn't happen to the forum. That was my only concern on that. Everything else, I agree, it looks, you know, we have a good plan to follow.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Cassetti?
I think council brought up a good point about the $18 to encourage anybody that's in one of these that have been cut, that if they need somebody to be appointed or take on if the chairman takes it on themselves, such as you did, I think $18 is an hour is a good payoff for somebody who might be interested in doing that.
Well, the salary committee met last night, which I was part of, and we decided to use this resolution for the vote tonight, and we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Mr. Rivers?
Yeah. It was a second.
That was a second. Mr. Stowe?
My point about, sometimes it's easy to want to make your own, have somebody on the committee write their own minutes. But last year, because of the state's budget, we had a discussion about some money that we lent the Board of Ed. And if we didn't have those minutes, I don't know if we would have had that recorded. And the Board of Ed is actually, I don't know the right word, but they're not in agreement with the decision that we made. John, I'm just saying, so John, I think the previous administration worked on this with you, John, right? And now the new administration, and I believe that it seems to be the fairest way to do this for everybody. I just gotta be careful of wanting to not pay some, you know, because you can get in trouble with the minutes if you don't have those minutes back.
There's a motion, yes, Ms. O'Malley?
I just would point out, Charlie, that you seemed very concerned about saving money and not passing any salary resolutions before the budget process. So I would think that you and Alderman Tripp and Alderman Kaslitis would certainly recommend going forward with this to save $24,000 potentially. So I'm sure you would agree with that. A little bit better, not yet.
That's good.
Not yet.
I have a right to respond to that, and I'm going to respond to that. And I mentioned it to you today. This has nothing to do with you personally, or the salaries. What it is for me is when you open the floodgate, it doesn't. Because I've been here. I'm getting ready to go on I'm on my fourth term. I've lived it. I've watched it. I've seen it. I was in my own business. I didn't have to. I knew ahead of time. When you give somebody money, it doesn't matter if the other department makes $10 more than this department. They all go, oh, they're willing to give raises. That's all they care about. So every department between now and the end of the budget, we will be fighting about, well, City Hall got raises. Well, the mayor's department got raises, and it's a distraction from trying to get the job done where you look out for the taxpayer. That's what it's about for me. Quote. That's my opinion, and I have a right to have it too.
You absolutely do. Thank you. Mr. Castellitis.
Sheila, if you're a little sour about me not voting for your raise, it has nothing to do with you because I didn't vote for the IT tech raise 2 years ago either. What it is the percentage of it is that I have a problem with it. It's not that it's due. It's not
I just
it doesn't
wanted,
matter who it is.
This is a savings, and I just wanted to point out that maybe you want to consider that.
Yeah,
to balance it.
I'm sorry, Beth, public session's closed. I can't call on you. Public session's closed. I'm sorry.
When you vote to add a late communication, you have to reopen the public session. It was not on the agenda. It's required. You have to allow a public session for anything that's separately.
I'm not doing that tonight. Thank you.
You're out of order.
Thank you. Appreciate your opinion. Can we have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. O'Brien?
I'm just not informed enough to make a decision.
One no vote. Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Phil abstains. Abstain. Mr. Martin Dempsey?
3 abstentions.
Motion carried. Thank you. I think we skipped over late resolution number 2. That was regarding brownfields, the Abbar Grant.
Yes.
Which is not going to cost the city any money. Is that true?
That's correct.
That's right. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion approved.
Second by Mr. Stewart. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Resolution, I'm sorry. Can the town and city clerk read the resolution into the minutes? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas pursuant to the General Statute Section 32763, the Connecticut Department of Economic Community Development is authorized to extend financial assistance for developing a comprehensive plan for the remediation and redevelopment of multiple brownfields, parentheses, called the Brownfield Area Wide Revitalization Bar Planning Grant. And whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the City of Ansonia make an application to the state for a proposed grant amount not exceeding $200,000 in order to undertake the Ansonia Copper and Brass Municipal Development Plan Phase 1 and to execute an assistance agreement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen, 3 counts. 1, that it is coherent of the conditions and prerequisites, including the match obligations for the state financial assistance imposed by the General Section 32-763 and the guidelines of the bar planning program. 2, that the filing of an application for state financial assistance by the City of Ansonia in an amount not to exceed $200,000 is hereby approved, and that David S. Cassetti, Mayor, is directed to execute and file such application with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information to exceed such other documents as may be required, to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the City of Ansonia. Number 3, that it agrees to fulfill the required 10% cash match of the bar planning grant program if the application is successful.
Thank you. Motion and a second, and any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried unanimously. Any new business tonight, gentlemen? New business? Any old business? No old business? No executive session? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Castellitis, seconded by Mr. Schuer. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Well, last time when Mr. Timniak was here,